welcome back to another episode of the Checkers and Wreckers podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Carter Leonard, along with...
Professor Prostate, once again.
Very, very nice, and welcome to episode 28, ladies and gentlemen, of the first ever season of the Checkers and Wreckers podcast. Well, we have finally approached the magical spot of the season we like to call playoff time. It is officially time for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. And let's just say it's been one of the most anticipated playoff seasons that we have seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot going into it. You have Roush suddenly returning to their old ways and being really good. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman missing the playoffs. That's half of Hendrick Motorsports. And for multiple seasons now, I think all Hendrick cars have made the playoffs at least. So that's a terrifyingly big shakeup with that team, and I think it's certain to definitely cause the playoffs to get wild, because most years you have 3 or maybe even all 4 Hendrick cars in the final 8, and now this year at most you'll have 2.
Yeah, so, and also not only is it, the typical playoff season where 16 drivers enter in, but only one will walk away with the title at the end of the season at Phoenix. We also have numerous of different teams in the playoffs. We have Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports, Team Trackhouse, Richard Childress Racing, 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, RFK Racing, and Stuart Haas Racing, and who else am I forgetting? Oh, JTG Doherty Racing.
Honestly, I find the multiple teams being in here to be really cool, because it just creates, an absolutely nutty playoffs, and it's gonna be a wild one. I can feel it.
Yep. All of these drivers in the playoffs have either won races or made it in on points, and they look to be championship hopefuls at the end of the season, but one will walk away with the cup, and 15 other drivers will walk away wondering, what if? But before that, ladies and gentlemen, we need to look at how we set up this playoff field this past week, and that was... And let's get into the weekend recap, ladies and gentlemen, from Daytona. The Xfinity Series race on Saturday night was a pretty eventful one, to say the least. I almost got my pick right with Sheldon Creed nearly picking up his first Xfinity Series win, but he was beat by mere inches by the 7 of Justin Allgaier to pick up his second win of the 2023 season.
I still hate to say it, but Junior Motorsports is not back. But it was a really good Xfinity race, and I think that Creed's going to do it one day. He's come stupidly close to doing it, too. So...
It's funny how you brought up, Junior Motorsports not being back necessarily, but I will say... Them winning in back-to-back weeks with both Sam Mayer and Justin Allgaier does start to heal that wound a bit, but I would like to see them start running a little bit more consistent up front, and that's actually kind of shocking that I'm asking that for Junior Motorsports, because on a normal, regular basis, any other year, they would do just that, but 2023, it's not been their year. If you ask me who I think the best team in the garage is in the Xfinity Series, I would automatically point to Joe Gibbs Racing and John Hunter Nemechek. Like Junior Motorsports,
that team has been smoking them.
Yeah, like it's not even close. Like John Hunter Nemechek, and Sammy Smith, while he's had some good runs and has a win, John Hunter Nemechek has just been he's been, I wouldn't say carrying JGR, but he's been the main reason why they're quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, with Junior Motorsports, you have Justin Allgaier, who's, I'd say, in the twilight of his career. He's pretty old now for a driver, and he's good still. You have Sam Mayer, who's young and not the most experienced, and you have Josh Berry, who's had a lot on his shoulders this year, and a lot on his shoulders for next year. And then you have Brandon Jones, who sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, just 2 words. He sucks. Which I don't have a hatred towards Brandon Jones per se, but he is definitely. I expected a decent amount of expectations, considering that he did well. Oh, excuse me, I almost burped. Considering he did well with his time over at Joe Gibbs Racing for a little bit, I honestly expected that he was going to do somewhat well at Junior Motorsports, but so far that has not been the case. And right now, the Xfinity Series has 2 regular season races remaining, which is this weekend at Darlington and the next weekend at Kansas. He has to win in order to get in at this point in the Xfinity Series playoffs. So for Brandon Jones, it's not looking good.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to end up being the lone Junior Motorsports car that is out of the playoffs. And that's really a testament to, the only reason he's in that 9 car is, 1, they needed a quick replacement for Noah Gragson. 2, I don't really think Jones wanted to be at Joe Gibbs after the whole Martinsville incident. And 3, Menard's money.
Yep, that Menard's money is definitely going to speak volumes. But that is
Menard's money is gold.
But we got sidetracked there for a second, so we just got done talking about the Xfinity Series race at Daytona. Now let's get into the Cup race, which let's just say a lot of shit happened. It was the battle of. It was the. I would say it's probably one of my favorite races of the next gen so far, simply because there was a lot of good racing, but you also had some very interesting moments, to say the least. So going into this race, a lot of eyes were on the 23 car of Bubba Wallace, because at that time he was 32 points above the cut line in the 16th and final spot of the playoffs, and he was being separated by young rookie Ty Gibbs. The plan for Bubba Wallace was very simple: stay out of trouble, finish good, and you're in. And he did just that, capturing the final 16th playoff spot. But let's get into the race itself. There was a lot of bad accidents in this race. The first bad accident being the end of stage 2, where it was a battle for the stage win. Coming out of turn 4, Ryan Blaney is leading out front. Ty Gibbs is right behind him. And behind Ty Gibbs is his own teammate, Christopher Bell. And Bell accidentally got the 54 loose from a little bad shove behind. It turned Ty down into the 12 of Ryan Blaney, and Blaney absolutely slammed the outside wall head on. A multi-car crash, taking out a lot of good cars, including Ty Gibbs, who was fighting for a playoff spot. But unfortunately, due to that accident, he was eliminated from the race and from the playoffs themselves, which I got to give credit to Ty Gibbs. He came close this year in his first year making the playoffs, but there's always next year. But going back to the hit for a second, that was probably the most, before the the other incident that happened, that was the hardest hit I had ever seen on the next-gen car. Like, by far, the hardest hit, with the way he hit the outside wall. And I believe we have just lost prostate. Oh boy.
Just literally
There he is.
a head-on hit into the outside wall at near race speed, which is terrifying because I showed Blaney's onboard, and his head just goes forward and immediately back. And thank God for the safer barrier. Thank God for the Hans device. Because if both of those did not exist, we likely would not have Ryan Blaney anymore.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on social media comment saying, if that wreck happened like 20, 21 years ago, then it probably would have been a different outcome, which, a lot of people don't want to hear that. But, back then, that was the sad reality of the sport. But, thankfully, safety has really, really evolved over the years. And we're glad to see Ryan Blaney walked away from that. And that was also a new testament to the new front clip of the next-gen car. Before, I believe, the Atlanta race, the second Atlanta race back in July, that was the first race that the new front clip was implemented, NASCAR was trying to find ways of, crushing the front clip a little bit better so it wasn't as stiff or hard. And quite frankly, that wreck showed that it did its job, and Blaney was able to walk away from that and said that he felt a lot better from that wreck. So that was a good thing to, see. It really goes to show, that safety is always evolving in this sport, and it will continue to evolve for as long as the sport continues. So,
This weekend in general was not the weekend for anyone named Ryan. As in the Xfinity Series race, Ryan Ellis in the 43 for Alpha Prime Racing took a hard nail to the inside wall near pit road. A certified Ricky Rudd moment, if I must say.
Yeah, and also, we'll get to the other wreck here in a second, but another moment that happened, and it's probably the funniest moment, is after that wreck, they displayed the red flag for cleanup in turn 4. There was an issue on the 6th car of Brad Keselowski under the red flag. Apparently, the inside of his car caught fire, and during the red flag, he was doing circles down the back straightaway, and I could say it was probably one of the funniest things I had ever seen in my life.
As soon as I saw that, under a red flag, a car or driver or whatever moving, I immediately thought, oh my god, it's another Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, but
that happened to Sterling in, what was it, 2000, 2001?
2002. It was the 02 500.
Under the red flag, out of his car and began to tug on the fender, and NASCAR penalized him for it, sent him to the back, and he managed to get up to 8th by the finish, which was like 3-4 laps.
Now,
amazing.
A lot of people were questioning of what Brad was doing down the back straightaway on, if he was going to be penalized or sent to the back, this, and that. Look, thankfully NASCAR didn't do it because, in my opinion, his car being on fire on the inside in the cockpit, trying to get it out is a legit reason to, try to... I don't know if that tactic sort of worked, I guess. He radioed in saying, hey, the fire stopped, this, and that. But that has got to be one of the weirdest things imaginable. It's just, there's always something with Brad Keselowski on the backstretch during the red flag at Daytona. 2012 ring a bell, ladies and gentlemen.
Takes a photo.
Yeah.
2023, those circles.
Yeah.
It's just the Roush cars in general just have this really weird issue with catching on fire in the middle of a race. 2022 Indianapolis road course. Chris Buescher's car caught on fire due to an electrical issue, and he ended up finishing the race in 10th. That's quite frankly amazing. Another incident later on in the year happened where Buescher's car caught fire. And now this year, Keselowski is caught on fire. All 3 times, the car has finished the race in a respectable position.
Yeah, and that's the, it was like I said, it was one of the weirdest things I had ever seen in, when it came to a red flag situation.
Yeah. Red flags always produce funny moments.
But after that red flag, the race remained at a similar pace to what it was earlier. There was a lot of 3-wide racing, pit strategies, this, and that, the typical ending to a super speedway, until we got about to 5 laps to go, which which ended up being Ryan Preece's unbelievable wreck, where he got hit from behind by the 43 of Eric Jones. He spun down the racetrack, ended up taking his teammate with him, Chase Briscoe, through the grass. And it looked like that those cars were just going to slide through the grass and, nothing was going to happen. Well, that was until aerodynamics became a thing.
Suddenly began to pick up like a Matchbox car.
Yep, and it sent that car tumbling through the grass at a very fast rate of speed. And let me just say, out of all the years I have watched this sport, that has got to be one of the most violent flips I had ever seen in my life. It looked like literally something out of the 1990s. It reminded me of Rusty Wallace's 1993 Talladega flip, where it was the finish of the race and he got spun by Earnhardt and he just went tumbling through the grass and he was like flipping like over 20 feet in the air and just like the car was just killed afterwards.
1992 Pocono. Davey Allison is accidentally turned by Darrell Waltrip. Car picks up, begins to roll. And in both crashes, and in Darrell Waltrip's, 1990-1991 Daytona flip, going into Turn 3 in the grass, all three times the cars got absolutely shredded and mangled beyond belief on the body, and the bars were messed up, and, things like that.
Luckily,
Preece's flip, the car held together except for the roof hatch, which kind of fell off. But honestly, that's kind of understandable why that happened, because
I'm glad you brought.
I can only imagine how many G-forces he took.
I'm glad. I was gonna bring that up about the whole window net thing, but I wanted to add on to, the ending of the wreck itself. So thankfully, Ryan Blaney, after the flip was over, he actually landed back on four wheels. I mean, car was just absolutely destroyed. The front end was pretty much gone. Even though, like, it was still somewhat attached to the front of the car, like, there was just, like, it was destroyed. So, medical crews came over to see if Ryan Preece was okay. Thankfully, he got out under his own power, but he actually then had to be placed on a stretcher and was actually taken to a local hospital for evaluation. Now, thankfully, he was discharged later that night, and as of today, as a matter of fact, Ryan Preece was cleared by doctors to race at Darlington this weekend, so that's great news to hear. So thankfully, Ryan Preece does not have any injuries whatsoever. But it's really good to see that. But going back to the wreck itself, and you mentioned it, Prostate, it's the window net thing. Now, we hardly see that happen when it comes to any sort of flip or barrel roll like that, because I would say 95% of the time when we see a barrel roll wreck, we don't see the window net come off like that. Now, another thing is that with the window net, basically almost flying off, there was also the roof hatch that came open first, which is, when it comes to the roof or the greenhouse of the car, is quite frankly, I would say, the lightest part of the roof, because you can literally pop that thing open with just the punch of your fist. I mean, we've seen it happen with drivers.
Denny Hamlin mentioned when he was testing the next-gen car at Charlotte when they were first getting this thing all together, before and during early 2022, he mentioned that when he was in the car, he put his arm up and nudged the roof a bit, and suddenly he saw the sun coming in, and he peeked up, and the roof hatch was off the car. It was hanging on the car, but it wasn't in the slot where it's supposed to be. But thankfully, Preece kept his head off the pavement, and he's okay.
Which, obviously, isn't surprising that he kept his head off the pavement, considering that, we often forget how surprisingly low these guys sit in the car, especially I wouldn't consider Ryan Preece to be the tallest dude in the garage. I mean, he's definitely not the tallest dude in the garage compared to, other drivers that he has raced with. But, thankfully, they sit very low in the car. But the window net itself coming off, I wasn't really surprised that happened. I'll tell you why. It's because when you dig in the grass with these cars, it's going to do some very, very bad damage. Now, do I think that this should be fixed? Yes, absolutely. I don't like seeing the window net being torn off like that because it's just it's very obviously the window net is supposed to keep the drivers inside the car. It's there for a reason. And thankfully, although Ryan Preece didn't get, yeeted out of the car, he, it's just the window net being snatched off that easy. It's just kind of one of those, that's not a good thing. So from what I understood after that wreck, that they took that car back to the R&D center to see, what improvements could be made to the car to make sure that the window net doesn't detach or the roof hatch completely, comes off or anything like that. But yeah, just a testament.
I personally, people are saying that NASCAR is throwing away safety. I've seen some people saying that NASCAR has disregarded safety with the roof hatch coming off and the window net coming off. The roof hatch is held on by two little pivots and is meant to be easy for the driver to pop open. Same with the window net. Look at Ryan Blaney in the 2022 All-Star race. He literally took one hand and took both hooks off the window net. And, it's very easy for the driver and for crews outside of the car to be able to take that window net off. But it is stupidly difficult for the driver to get it back on when they're inside the car, because NASCAR never really expected that to happen. But as I saw someone point out, my own, thoughts about it, even, with the window net, drivers do not have enough body size, really, body length to be able to stick any limbs outside of the window, because you see in super speedway qualifying drivers sticking their hand up to the window, to that little slit to block air from coming in.
Yeah.
Their arm is, they showed Ryan Blaney's onboard qualifying, his arm was fully stuck out. And I'm pretty sure they also showed Preece's onboard. Both their guys' arms were fully stuck out to that window. So at most you could get fingers and maybe half your hand outside that window.
Yeah, it's not like that your whole head and torso is going to be out the window because, obviously you're strapped into
it's not like Richard Petty in Arlington in 1970 where he broke his arm because he got flung around through the car and broke his arm landing on the ground.
Right, and that's the main reason why the window net was invented to begin with and why it's implemented today. So, that's the reason why these cars have window nets today. So that's a very good thing. But once again, I will say, glad Ryan Preece didn't suffer any injuries, and I'm glad that he is going to be at Darlington this weekend doing the job that he loves very much and driving the 41 car. So great to see Ryan Preece didn't get hurt from that.
The funny thing also about that is that maybe 5-10 minutes earlier, Preece, Stuart Haas Racing tweeted out, the number 41 is flying, and they mentioned how many positions he had gained.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did see that. And let's just say that that post did not age well.
He really was flying. Also, another funny thing I noticed shortly after the race was last season at Daytona, same, Coke 0400, Chase Briscoe gets spun being near the 41 car. Briscoe's back end picks up, but he doesn't fully take off. Meanwhile, Cole Custer drives away. This year, Ryan Preece is spun and hits Chase Briscoe. And Briscoe drives away and is fine besides a bit of damage. Meanwhile, Ryan Preece has one of the scariest accidents in 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually good. That's actually a good comparison.
The Coke 400 has just not been it for Stuart Haas these past 2 years.
No, I can't. Well, I can't even imagine.
These past 3 years have just not been it for Haas.
No, I can't even imagine what 2024 is going to be like for them at Daytona. We can only hope and pray that it's not as bad or worse than it was Saturday night. But yeah. So moving on to the next topic, we actually have some breaking news that actually came out this past weekend regarding the 2004 champion Kurt Busch. He decided to officially call it a career. Kurt Busch has officially announced his retirement from NASCAR competition. 34 career wins, the 2004 Cup Series champion, and the 2017 Daytona 500 champion. I mean, you know, we all saw how it ended last year, obviously during the Pocono crash where he suffered a concussion, and little did we know that would be the last ever time that we saw Kurt Busch in a race car. So Kurt Busch, without a doubt, is a future Hall of Famer. No matter who you are, what you think of Kurt, you know, you can't deny that he was one of the best in the 21st century to strap into a stock car.
Yeah. Plus, he made Mr. Excitement Jimmy Spencer much more exciting.
Yeah. You know, he's probably the main reason why Jimmy Spencer is, besides Jimmy Spencer's Spencer's 2 career wins, he's probably Kurt's definitely one of the main contributors of why Jimmy Spencer is remembered. But another thing that, you know, that I don't think really gets, well, let me rephrase, it does get talked about a lot, is that we have seen that Kurt Busch has gone through numerous teams in his career. And one thing that Kurt Busch has always done with every single team that he has been with, he has made them better. Roush, Penske, Phoenix Racing, Furniture Row Racing, Stewart Haas Racing, Chip Ganassi Racing, and he ended it off with 23XI Racing, and he made that team better. So, yeah, no matter where Kurt Busch went, you know, he was definitely going to be an asset to that organization and taking care as a main priority.
I mean, you know, went to Roush, got them a championship, and then had to go to Penske. He did pretty good, got them wins, but also helped them propel up and helped them end up getting Joey Logano after A.J. Allmendinger's suspension. And now Joey Logano is a 2-time champion with that team. And then afterward, you know, Kurt went to Phoenix Racing. And while not getting a win there, he got like a 3rd or 4th place at Sonoma and helped that team be better. And plus, that team, Phoenix Racing, would let Kyle Larson make his first ever start at 2014 in Martinsville. And Phoenix Racing had the 51, and that team would later be transferred to Rick Ware Racing.
They meant 2013.
Rick Ware Racing is the epitome of bad, but it's good.
Yeah, you know, obviously Kurt Busch, you know, like I said, you know, future Hall of Famer, you know, during the press conference, he did get a little bit choked up. He did release a video on social media talking about, you know, his career and how it meant to him and how, you know, he was just a kid from Las Vegas, which, you know, a lot of people, you know, a lot of drivers at the time when it came to NASCAR during the late 90s and early 2000s were either from the South or, you know, some few drivers were out west. You know, Jeff Gordon, you know, was a California guy, but, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of others out there until Kurt Busch came around, the kid from Las Vegas, and, you know, he started out his career well, and then eventually his younger brother Kyle came, you know, and the Busch brothers would, you know, win races, you know, and, you know, both of them would become future Hall of Famers. So, you know, all I got to say to Kurt Busch is that, all I got to say about Kurt Busch is that my childhood is once again slowly fading away, It just feels like every year I see drivers who I grew up with just go away each and every year, and Kurt Busch and eventually, when the season wraps up, Kevin Harvick are both going to be on that list. So, Kurt Busch, happy retirement to you, man. You earned it, and congrats on being a future Hall of Famer, and you will always be a champion in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, one of my earlier memories of NASCAR was watching the 2014 Homestead race. Kevin Harvick winning his first and assumedly, unless he goes off on a sudden horrifying tear of old age and you're, winning his first and last championship. And I just remember, there with my grandpa, it was really cool because I was like, man, not only is that a really nice scheme, but I like that driver. Didn't really know who it was, but I just liked that 4 car. And, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch. There's so many of these drivers, whether you like them or I hate them. There's just so many drivers that I've grown up liking. I still remember, the recent wave of a lot of these younger guys coming into NASCAR. And it's just, I'm not that old, but it feels weird seeing the guys that I grew up watching retire.
Yeah, it feels, the way I see it when it comes to drivers retiring, as I get older, it's a constant reminder of, hey, you're growing up, you're getting older, this stuff ain't gonna last forever, this and that, and I was upset when Jeff Gordon retired. I was upset when Tony Stewart retired, and I was surprisingly upset when Carl Edwards, called the career really. I was sad when Jimmy left, and now I'm sad that Kurt and both Kevin are leaving the sport because it's a constant reminder that the old guys are out and the new guys are coming in. So, eventually we're going to have...
I sadly think that one of the next guys to retire is going to end up being Kyle Busch because he's either in his late 30s or he's like 40 or 41 years old. And his performance has dipped, but he's still great.
He's 38 years old as of right now, and while he isn't going to retire from NASCAR competition just yet because, he wants to eventually, he talked about laying down the plan for, him to run in the Truck Series full-time and trying to win a championship in that series because if he were to do that, he will be the first driver in NASCAR history to win a championship in all 3 touring series. Because people forget that he won the Xfinity Series championship back in 2009, and he didn't even run the full schedule. Talk about bushwhacking. But going back to Busch, Busch is currently 38 years old, and he's not the oldest driver in the garage. There's a few others who are older than him right now, mainly Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. But as to when he could possibly retire, and join his brother in the retirement, I wouldn't be surprised if he called it a Cup career at 43, 44 years old, possibly. Who knows? But that's all part of the.
He mapped out a plan a while ago. I saw something on NASCAR Race Hub, that Kyle had basically made out this plan that he's going to keep running in the Cup Series. Or at least, keep running in NASCAR until Brexton Busch is 15 or 16 years old. And at that point, Kyle's going to do a schedule in the Truck Series where Brexton runs all the short tracks because at 15 or 16, you're only allowed to run short tracks until you're 18 years old. Kyle's going to run everything else. Brexton will run the short tracks.
And just for experience too.
Kyle's going to fully retire from driving.
And just for experience too, at 16, 17, you can also run road courses as well.
But isn't Brexton like 10 or 11?
Brexton, as of right now, I believe is 8 years old, which is crazy. Which is crazy to me because, I remember 2015 he was born, and now all of a sudden he's almost 10 years old, and he's doing what he wants to do. He's doing what his father's doing. He's racing, so that's crazy to me. But also,
we're gonna get like 10 more years of Kyle Busch, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, and as a Kyle Busch fan myself, that also makes me happy. Hopefully he wins one more Cup championship before he eventually decides to, go on with this plan. But I forgot to mention who won at Daytona, that being Chris Buescher. I feel so silly now. So yeah, congratulations, Chris Buescher.
Dude, if Kyle Busch wins the championship with Richard Childress Racing, oh my God, I'm gonna party.
It would be their first title in nearly 30 years, which was
Dale. The last title was Dale Earnhardt in 1994, taking his 7th championship.
Yeah, a record that still holds today between two other Cup Series drivers who are no longer racing. But he could do it this year. He can literally get it done this year and win the title, and that would definitely be an interesting story. But we'll see.
Childress just needs to pick it up a little bit, and because Kyle's been on the most painful mid-season flop I've ever seen.
He didn't. His mid-season run didn't start out like that either. He actually, from Darlington to Atlanta, he had 7 straight top 10s, and one of those races included a win, which was at Gateway. But from New Hampshire to the regular season finale at Daytona, he's only mustered up 2 top 10s.
Yeah.
So, while it's kind of worrying some considering the inconsistency of that, I'd rather have the inconsistency for him play out now rather than the playoffs, so he can definitely, the playoffs I consider for him a reset, so he can, go out, get a good run, get points, get a win, and then, point his way in to, next round and the next round and then the next round and just, do what he has to do. But, well, let's move on to our next topic, and it's regarding some silly season news regarding 23XI Racing. As 23XI Racing president Steve Lauletta came out and said that was asked about the possible rumors of, if 23XI Racing is going to stay with Toyota, are they going to switch? And he just said, and I quote, "Yeah, nothing is changing as far as I know for next year." So I'm going to take Steve Lauletta's word and say, you're definitely going to take his word because he is the team president, and I'm sure that the hope is for them to return to Toyota next year because that's the main reason why Denny Hamlin's contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing has not been done yet. It's simply because Toyota and 23XI's partnership ends after this year, so they're trying to get that re-signed, and then they can announce the Hamlin contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. But as for right now, the contract dispute, I wouldn't call it a dispute per se because it's being handled right now, but it's definitely an odd situation to be in if you're Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, because you have ties to, the team you've been with since 2007 have come up short multiple times on winning a championship, which is still hilarious, in my opinion. But you also have the team that you own, or co-own technically, and help with, and it just must be a really weird feeling for Denny right now.
Yeah, because he's been driving for Joe Gibbs Racing since 2006, which was his rookie year, and he's not looked back since. So far in his career, 50 career wins so far, all of them being with Joe Gibbs Racing. So the Florida rumors, I mentioned this last week, or the week previous, or the week like after Watkins gone. Yeah, it was last week. There was also rumors saying that Stewart-Haas Racing was potentially going to sell 2 out of their 4 charters, and those rumors, as of late, actually got shot down. So, as of right now, Stewart-Haas Racing is not selling any of their charters. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't potentially do it later on down the line, but when it comes to right now and plans regarding 2024, Stewart-Haas Racing simply just said no, because if they were to sell, it was probably likely that 23XI Racing, I don't know how they would get the money, or Denny Hamlin would get the money, but there's a possibility that they would have probably bought one of those charters and switched to Ford, and Denny Hamlin would have driven for his own team, or possibly have gotten Zane Smith as well. There was rumors saying that he talked with 23XI Racing if that move were to happen. And as of late, during the media productions for the NASCAR playoffs, Denny Hamlin was recently asked about the whole contract situation in of itself, and I wouldn't say he didn't sound too confident. Well, I wouldn't say he sounded, Debbie Downer, but at the same time, he, it's been up and down. So Bob Parker's tweeted out yesterday, Denny Hamlin has had some back and forth reporters about his contract status during the Cup Series playoff media day. He said nothing new to report, and he is still 100%. He wants to be back with Joe Gibbs Racing, and still about getting contracts done for 23XI Racing as well. So yeah, it's basically nothing new, just the same thing. We're in the month of September already. We're getting down to the end of the season, so you would like to have this done now before the end of the season and before you go into the deep depths of the off season. So hopefully this gets done, because if nothing gets done, Joe Gibbs Racing could be facing the reality where they both lose Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin in a span of a year.
And then potentially losing Martin Truex Jr. the season after due to potential retirement.
Which, in all fairness, that was going to happen regardless. You know what I mean? But Denny Hamlin
for Joe Gibbs losing their 3 best drivers, because they have John Hunter Nemechek and Sammy. They have John Hunter Nemechek prepared to probably replace Hamlin or Truex. But if they lose both Hamlin and Truex in the potential, same year or whatever could happen. Let's say Denny's contract doesn't get gone through, and they have to rush up Nemechek a year early, and then Truex retires after 24. Who do they get to replace him? Because rushing Sammy Smith would be a horrible idea.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about it, because you don't want to rush Sammy Smith, because I think a lot of people are looking at his stats right now just like, well, he's just had a rough rookie season. Listen, bro, I am telling you this right now. Sammy Smith, that dude's raw. I don't care what you say. That dude has raw talent to him. Get him another year in Xfinity, I guarantee you he's going to be a contender. Prostate, can you agree with me on that Sammy Smith is definitely a real deal talent?
Yeah, Sammy Smith is a lot of talent. He did pick up a win at Phoenix earlier this season, so Jesus, he could be a really weirdly upset champion potential pick, because he was pretty good there.
He's a good
he makes the Final Four. Then Sammy Smith could very well be in contention for a championship in his rookie season, which would be nuts.
A lot of people are forgetting that Sammy Smith has performed, if he doesn't have shit luck, he performs well at short tracks.
Yeah,
he does.
Smoke him at short tracks, because if I remember right, he did like a year or two in ARCA, which is mainly short tracks. So he knows how to wheel a car around those.
Yeah. But going back to Joe Gibbs Racing for a second, so I'm still thinking that Denny Hamlin is going to. I'm still on the believer side that he's still going to get things done with Joe Gibbs Racing, because a lot of people are saying it's another Kyle Busch situation. I understand where they're coming from, saying that it's like, oh, it's the same exact talk. They're talking about getting the contract done, but they didn't actually do it. But here's the thing: there's a lot more things in play for Hamlin in his favor to get things done, because FedEx is willing to renew their sponsorship, no doubt in my mind about that. I'm sure Denny definitely wants to stay. Joe Gibbs wants him to stay. And I'm sure, Toyota definitely wants 23XI to stay, because they have become, while not the primary asset of their, program, they've definitely, they were that second team that they have always looked for, and they have tons and tons of sponsorship, tons of millions of dollars poured into that team. And you're also going to get, Legacy Motor Club next year, because you worked so hard on expanding your Cup Series lineup of Toyotas in the field. So you definitely don't want to, not only get rid of Hamlin, but also get rid of your one of your Cup programs. That you have.
Not only do you get to keep Tyler Reddick, but you also gain back Eric Jones. It's a win-win.
Yeah. And I actually explained a theory to the viewers last week, and I'm going to explain it to you, Prostate. So let's just say hypothetically, if Denny Hamlin were to switch to Ford, and he would buy a charter, if that were to ever happen, and put Zane Smith and him in the lineup. Let's just say, Denny Hamlin and Zane Smith both go to drive for 23XI Racing. What if Toyota makes a deep push to keep Tyler Reddick, and they put him over at Joe Gibbs Racing to fill in his spot?
That would be, quite frankly, amazing.
Because I
think Tyler Reddick, if he keeps performing as he is and just gets better luck and better, runs with the 23XI Racing pit crew, then he could be a championship contender if he has, slightly better stuff notched up. And I think, if he ever jumps over to Joe Gibbs after whatever, there's potential that he could become a championship guy.
I'm pretty sure Joe Gibbs Racing would love a guy like Tyler Reddick, because, listen, no disrespect to, any other drivers who are willing to, get a chance at Joe Gibbs Racing, but that's Tyler Reddick, though, dude. You can't miss out on him. Now, as I said before, people...
On speedways, and oh my god, his road course performances are beautiful.
I'm just going to say it again. That's Tyler Reddick, though. You can't miss out on that, dude. But again, people, this is all just an hypothetical. I believe that Denny Hamlin will get things worked out eventually, but you know what they say, man. Never say never. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Christ, imagine RCR picks up a charter and you have Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch's teammates. Joe Gibbs would lose 2 good drivers to RCR.
I could imagine the press conference RCR would have with Denny Hamlin. Well, I think Denny Hamlin is a great fit for our organization. And I think...
You don't even need another charter, just get rid of Austin Dillon.
Oh God! Imagine Denny Hamlin in the 3 car.
Give Kyle Busch the 3, please.
Listen. A lot of people, as a Kyle Busch fan, a lot of people have asked me. I know we're getting sidetracked here, but a lot of people have asked me, how would you feel if Kyle Busch would be in the 3 car? I'm gonna keep it 100 with you guys. I would not honestly really care, to be honest, because I know the 3 is an iconic number, and it would kind of like piss off the boomers because, before he went back over the Chevy, he used to be the most hated and despised driver in the garage area, simply because, he's Kyle Busch. And, but
the most hated driver of the modern day drive the same car that the most hated driver of the 80s and 90s drove.
Yeah, but then again, Dale Earnhardt had tons of fans that supported him.
So does Kyle Busch.
Yeah, but you find more. When I go to races, I'm typically prone. I don't know if it's just my luck of the draw, but I'm always prone to like finding more Busch haters than Busch fans. But I don't really care what number he was going to drive for at RCR, so I'm glad, I don't really care if it was the 3, the 8, the 33, or whatever, the 29, I don't even really give a shit, All I care about is that dude is winning and he gets it done. So, moving on to our next topic. Oh my God, when it came to the weekend recap, I completely forgot about the truck race, Prostate. And I actually got my pick right that race, and it was Grant Enfinger. But the reason why I did not talk about it is simply because I'm sorry for any Milwaukee Mile fans out there. The race was goddamn boring. Like literally nothing happened.
I was out of the movies.
Like I was literally watching that race, and besides me wanting Grant Enfinger to win because I was so into my picks that weekend, I'm glad I got a pick right because. Guys, if you check out last week's episode, I did pick Grant Enfinger to win the Milwaukee Mile. But after that, but besides that, it was just a dull race, so I really didn't have time to really put it in. So, oh well. Now
Time Majeski thing.
Oh yeah, the whole Ty Majeski penalty. So, Ty Majeski, as of late in the Truck Series, has picked up a win. He's performed really well. He picked up a win at IRP to advance to the second round of the playoffs. And he was very, very fast in Milwaukee, considering that he actually had to start in the back. But NASCAR found out that Ty Majeski did a very, very big no-no. So, Prostate, can you explain to the viewers what exactly Ty Majeski did that was a no-no?
I don't even know what he did, but they gave him a 70-point penalty going into the next round of the playoffs, which is the most useless points penalty I've ever seen, because the points are reset going into the playoffs, going into the next round.
So basically...
So they either should have put him in the negatives and make him work his way up there, or they should have just taken out the playoffs in general.
And for people wondering, no, they did not take his win at IRP, so regardless of this penalty, he was locked into the next round regardless, so obviously they didn't take his win away, but I agree with you. What he got, I don't even remember what he got penalized for. I would have to look it up, but I don't feel like doing it in this episode. But yeah, like that has got to be one of the most useless penalties of all time. Like, it virtually does absolutely nothing for Ty Majeski. Like, in my opinion,
NASCAR literally approached the team, gave them a pat on the shoulder, and told them not to do that again, and then walked off.
But it's because Thor Sport Racing is a championship contending team, and all that other shit.
Since Ben Rhodes won his championship. Before that, they haven't done a thing since 2019.
Yeah. But no, Thor Sport Racing and Ty Majeski got caught for whatever they did. It had something to do with the tires or some shit like that. I don't know.
Something within the tire, I think it was, or something.
And I don't even know how that.
To the tire.
No, I'm not.
It's amazing they thought that up, I think.
I'm not even the chief mechanic, and even I still question. Well, how the hell did that make the car fast? Not the car. Let me be. I don't even know what the word I'm trying to say. Let me be politically.
to the vehicle.
Let me be politically correct. I don't know what they did to the wheels on that truck did make it faster specifically. Obviously, I'm not a chief mechanic, and I'm not mechanically inclined to really give a statement on that. So whatever Ty Majeski did to those tires or the team at ThorSport Racing, don't do that shit again. Otherwise, the penalty may be a little bit more harsh than what they got. Who knows?
And also, on the topic of the Truck Series, just announced yesterday that Matt DiBenedetto will be leaving Rackley War at the end of the 2023 season. As he put it in his tweet, he's decided to not return to the team for the following season.
And that actually kind of confused me because, he made the playoffs.
In 2021, after the 2021 season, DiBenedetto was basically begging for a ride, and Rackley gave him a helping hand. Now, Rackley did also get help from GMS, which did announce their shutdown last week.
Yeah.
But, Rackley gave a helping hand to Benedetto, and they won with the team in a race that should have been won by Brett Holmes, but no, NASCAR officiating sucks.
But going back to Matt DiBenedetto for a second.
Took that helping hand and ran with the team and did really good. And now he's just suddenly giving up what is likely his only opportunity in NASCAR. Because, he never ran Xfinity. He was mid in trucks, except for that Talladega win. And besides the very few close calls he had in the Cup Series, he sucked.
Yeah, so for DiBenedetto's season, as of right now, he is currently in the Truck Series playoffs, by the way, although being below the cut line in 10th, I believe. So him and Rackley Ward definitely made the playoffs. So I was actually kind of very surprised that he announced that he would not be returning for the team. So I'm just like, wait, why? I mean, he's having a decent season. He made the playoffs. Like, what's going on? Like, why don't they want him back? So a lot of people are really speculating, making theories out there, and someone that I know, that I follow on Twitter, it's called X, it's called These Nuts, they made a theory saying that that during the same time of this announcement that what was it? That Kaulig Racing made an announcement saying that you're going to be surprised on what plans we have for the 31 car next year here at Kaulig Racing. And a lot of people really jumped the gun in saying that, oh my God, it could possibly be Matt DiBenedetto. And if you ask me, I think that is probably the dumbest silly season rumor I have heard in the past year and a half, because, like, I understand the timing is very convincing to some, but just no.
But also at the same time with the announcement of, Justin Haley going to Rick Ware Racing in 2024, that was around when Noah Gragson got suspended, and people have been making rumors that Gregson's going to the 31. Well, Matt Kaulig's a pretty smart dude, but he does have his dumb moments, but I do not think anyone in the Cup Series is dumb enough to sign Noah Gragson.
Well, not only that, Noah doesn't have any sponsorship, doesn't have a lot of major funding, and
yeah, because Black Rifle Coffee just kind of sponsors everyone at this point, and a stupid amount of the sponsors that are on those petty cars are Matt Gallagher sponsors that he's paying for out of pocket.
Yeah.
Sunseeker Energy, or whatever, the resort, whatever it is.
Sunseeker Resort and Allegiant.
Yeah, Air Allegiant. A lot of those sponsors, the only real sponsor Gregson really had was Wendy's and Black Rifle.
But even then, Black Rifle was a sponsor before he came over. Remember, they sponsored Ty Dillon the year previous.
The only thing I remember Ty Dillon for in that 42 car was him being an absolute pinball in the Clash.
Yeah. No,
Quite frankly, I was terrified going into the Daytona 500 last year with how Ty Dillon was.
yeah. Also, another thing regarding Kaulig racing and what I think. So, I have heard some possible names being floated around due to with some very good sources around me of who I think, of who could possibly be in the 31 car next year. I don't think it can't be a part-time car with multiple drivers, obviously, because that is a chartered ride. College Racing's lineup in the Cup Series is very interesting because you don't have a driver in the 31 car, but also you don't have, there's a possibility that AJ Allmendinger could return back to the Xfinity Series next year, and the 16 might be open. So there's a potential.
Maybe Kaulig just kind of gives up on the Cup idea because it has not worked out for them. Besides Allmendinger's win.
See, I can see that, but at the same time, I have a hard time really thinking that it's going to be like that because, they spent all their time and energy trying to get up to the Cup Series, and they have two chartered teams. I don't think they're going to shut their Cup program down, so I just don't see it, to be honest, because they worked hard to get up there. So, but you never know. But I would say, there's a possibility, like I said, that your two-car team could have two open slots next year, and you may have trouble on who you might sign. I thought that Austin Hill would have been a perfect candidate had he not re-signed a multi-year deal to stay with RCR in Xfinity. But, that's how it goes. All right, now moving on to our final topic, ladies and gentlemen, and that is weekend predictions. It is a very big weekend in NASCAR indeed. It is Southern 500 weekend, aka the first race of the 2023 playoffs. But there's also a lot of other stuff going on. You have the Xfinity Series race tomorrow. So since I got my Truck Series pick right last week, I automatically get to go first with the Xfinity Series. So my pick to win the Xfinity Series race this weekend at Darlington. I looked at the order sheet, and quite frankly, there's only one right name to go for, and that's Kyle Larson. Plain and simple, he's running the Xfinity Series race with his colleague again, and, he won there in the spring over a tight battle with John Hunter Nemechek, so I'm not going to really say much after that. So, yeah, Larson's my pick to win Xfinity.
And before I make my prediction, news in from Legacy Motor Club, Carson Hocevar, along with running Arlington this weekend, will, in the Cup Series in the number 42, will be running Kansas and Bristol later on this season. So,
yeah.
Carson's getting opportunities. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's getting opportunities to run Cup races this year, which he already has one Cup Series start earlier the year with Spire Motorsports in the 7, which was at Gateway until the whole brake rotor shit happened. So good for Carson Hocevar to get some more starts, even if it's with the 42, the dreaded 42 for Legacy Motor Club.
And plus, on topic of Darlington, Joseph Srigley, God, I love that man. I love Srigley's stats. Srigley? I don't know how you pronounce that properly, but whatever. He tweeted out, I don't know when, according to Media Alert, there will be a, quote, major announcement made during a press conference leading into this weekend's races at Darlington. The press conference will take place on Saturday, September 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Darlington Raceway Media Center.
That could mean...
I think personally they're going to end up having to repave Darlington, which is going to be a shame, but it's kind of necessary, because in 2021 they smoothed over a part in turns 1 and 2 because it was getting too pulled up.
I did see that tweet, as a matter of fact, even before we started recording this episode of the podcast. I didn't really have enough time to really speculate as to what that announcement could be. It could be anything for all I know. It could be, like you said, it could be a repave. It could be some form of renovation to the track. It could be something not even related to Darlington. Hell, who knows? It could be the goddamn 2024 season schedule for all I know. But I'm just making stuff up. But whatever the announcement is, we will know at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So that's good to know. But go ahead with your Xfinity Series Darlington pick, Prostate.
It's kind of obvious why.
You're going to go with Larson as well?
Yeah.
All right, so both of us are with Larson, and I'm going to have to go into the chat to see, who everybody else's Xfinity picks are. Now we get to the Sunday event, that being the Southern 500, a.k.a. round one of the round of 16. This is a pretty interesting race. To say the least. Darlington has been they don't call it too tough to tame for nothing. I'm going to look for a driver who showed really good speed earlier in the spring, because there was a bunch of cars that showed really good speed that I can name off the top of my head that all had a chance to win and unfortunately didn't. For the driver who I think is going to win at Darlington in the first round of the playoffs, I have Martin Truex Jr. winning the Southern 500.
Okay, you might call me crazy, and this prediction will probably age like 5-year-old milk in the Arizona sun. Kevin Harvick.
You know what? That is not a bad pick at all, I must say. That is actually a pretty solid pick. I could definitely see Harvick winning the Southern 500 this year. He did it in 2020, I believe. And, it would probably be his one last hurrah. And it would easily guarantee him an entry to the second round of the playoffs. So, yeah, I picked Martin Truex Jr., you picked Kevin Harvick. We will definitely see how our picks go this upcoming weekend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Checkers or Wreckers podcast. The first episode of the playoff season. We are very interested to see how this is going to go and who will eventually become the Cup Series champion. So, please like and subscribe for more podcast episodes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I am your host, Carl Leonard, along with
Sir Prostate.
Indeed, and we will see you guys next week as we make our previews for the second race of the year at Kansas Speedway. Bye-bye.
Bye.